I hope you're having a fine late summer day. It's late August here in Ontario, and it's a nice sunny day, and having a sort of quasi mini vacation at home. Nothing to worry about. Just thinking about the things that are upcoming. Doing a little reading. Maybe some writing. Not so much writing. I sort of write in my head and, well, then I share it with you. So let's do that. So I had quite a few thoughts bouncing around the back of my head. And one of the thoughts I had this morning is I was watching there's a new book which is coming out. I may link it in my description. I was watching an interview with a trader for Citigroup in the UK. He's not with them anymore, but when he was a trader with them, he was their most successful trader. And he was, his book sort of is a tell-all about everything that goes into being in the trading business at the highest levels of, financing, et cetera, et cetera. And this isn't a financial video. This is just more about what the dynamic was of where he worked. And through perfect circumstances, he was a fellow who, by his own admission, had risen up through the ranks. He worked at the bank, and through a number of circumstances, which again you can watch the video yourself and you'll see them there. But he was able to get into a position where he was actually able to do some high-level trading, which would not be normally something that someone from his background would have been able to experience. And he actually became one of Citibank's most profitable traders. And so it was quite serendipitous. Now he's not doing it anymore for, factors related to the internals of that job. But he gave some real interesting insights. One of the insights that he made is that when he was working there, there was quite a culture of sort of tunnel vision, meaning that everyone there was sort of bent on, always pursuing the money, everything for the money. And it was kind of like an elastic band that went in each direction. So hyper focused on work and pursuing the money. And then once that ended, hyper focused on pleasure and pursuing the pleasure and everything like that. So basically a rubber band, like, huge Coke addicts, and kind of like what you'd see in The Wolf of Wall Street if you watch that movie. And Coke parties, hookers, all that kind of stuff. And then hyper focused on work to the point it became fanatical. But one of the things that he touted in his interview is that his mindset was always centered around the job itself. Because when he got hired, he was only making like £36,000. He was based in England. £36,000 was his salary. And this was a few years ago, before the financial crisis in 2009. But he was very hyper-focused on his job, and he became very, very successful. And what actually happened is that when he became hyper-successful, he didn't actually realize what that success would mean to him monetarily. And how that expressed itself was he was doing his work, et cetera, and then when bonuses were paid, all of a sudden he got this £400,000 bonus, which at the time would have been like 700,000 US. And in that moment, he said his mindset completely changed. He realized there was big money to be made, opportunity, et cetera, and he went whole hog into it. But actually became a worse trader than when he had just allowed things to happen naturally. And had been more about the quality of what he did versus pursuing any other aspect which was self-serving. And so, it was an interesting lesson on how your mindset, whatever you're doing, will directly reflect your outcome and your results. And that sort of leads me in today's video. Would you rather suck the lemon? So here's what I mean by that. So oftentimes, if you're inclined, or maybe even yourself, you're inclined and you talk to people in the world, one of the things that are often going to be said, if you ask anyone how they're doing, it is very common for them to either say something like, "Oh, not bad," or "Oh, could be worse," or it will be a statement of neutrality, but it will have a negative angle to it. I'm not saying that's the case for everyone. I personally, when I'm asked this question, my common response is another day in paradise, because I do really feel that we do live in a paradise here in North America, because based on our quality of life versus a lot of places in the world. And even if you speak to people who are infirm, they may be, on the flip side, you can have people who are in very adverse conditions who will actually give you a very delightful response, and that's an interesting observation. But the lion's share of people that you're going to interact with, if you have any kind of a conversation with them, the conversation is going to be rooted in some negativity associated with, not their expectations aren't being met about maybe where they live or how much money they have, or how people treat them, or any aspect of that. That's going to be a commonality that they're going to bring up. And they're quick to bring it up. I always, when my son talks to me about his interactions, because he's in a job where he interacts with people several days a week, one of the red flags of people is what we call TMI, where out of the gate they're sharing with you some pretty negative things about their life, and you could be a veritable stranger to them. And the reason that's known as a bit of a red flag is that, they're basically telling you out of the gate that they have a negative mindset. And that mindset, it's no wonder they're experiencing strife and hardship, because, this energetically, it's being drawn to you. They're sucking the lemon. I don't know about you, but if I have a choice between sucking a lemon and, having a delicious orange, I'll pick the orange 9 times out of 10. Unless I want to put the lemon in my water. So, what is the ingredient of why someone has a negative mindset? Who have they known in their life, or what have they experienced that has created the negative mindset in them? And are they choosing to stay in that mindset, sucking the lemon, or are they choosing to rise out of it? So another excellent podcast, and again, I'll link it down below, talks about, there's this one fellow, it's a happiness type dude, but he more or less says that whatever your group is experiencing, you're going to experience it as well. And so he noted that statistically, if your social group, let's say especially noted in the case of women, because women file 80% of the divorces. That's just a fact, statistical fact. If your friend group begins to start having relationship troubles or even getting divorces, your odds of getting a divorce yourself, if you're a married person, or have a relationship crisis, will rise by 80%. And it's just simply because that negative energy has a spillover effect. It's kind of like when you're driving on a country road. I mean, every kid can remember the story of driving on the country road, and you'd be driving through a farmer's farming area, and they're spreading manure. And all of a sudden, you can smell manure big time. It was a funny joke when I was a kid. My father, when that would happen, we'd be like, "Oh, it's disgusting," and he would open the windows more and take a big breath and say, "Oh, smell that fresh country air." So yeah, As I said, when you're hanging around those people who have that strife, you're going to get that strife. And that's why, again, all the rich guys say, hey, if you have aspirations to be a rich guy, you're not going to become a rich guy if you're hanging out with people who are constantly complaining about money. If you want to become a rich guy, you've got to hang around with other rich guys who, have done so in a healthy way. I mean, if you're hanging out with mobsters, well, they're making their money on opportunizing against people. But if you want to become a rich guy, you hang around people who talk about the endless possibilities, and you bring that energy into yourself. You put down the lemon and you pick up the orange. And it becomes something that really becomes a part of you. The more you do it, because it's an incremental step. Like, so, for example, let's pretend you're hanging out in a group where, if you do an inventory, say, just take a minute. I always talk about doing an inventory, but take a yellow pad and write down all the people that you see at least once a week in your life. And then behind them, and this is not an exercise to diminish anyone, but this is an exercise to objectively assess who they are. If the people you write down, so let's pretend you're hanging out with, people you see, so let's pretend you've got one friend who is constantly in and out of relationships. The relationships are constantly going to shit, and then there's a period when they're single, and you'll hear the stories about how terrible that person was, and then they're in another relationship, and then they're in another relationship. You're going to, if you continue to keep that person in your sphere, or at least share with them that aspect of your life, you're going to be receiving input, which is kind of like the guy who wants to get rich listening to a poor man talk about how impossible that is. Let's pretend you want to lose weight, and you're hanging around with all kinds of friends who are going steady with Dunkin' Donuts, or if you're in America, or in Canada, Tim Hortons. They're downing a dozen donuts every other day, and it's like, and they're generally obese, and maybe not morbidly obese, but just they've always been fat, like just not healthy. Okay. Initially, you say, most people, if you say to them, hey, I want to get better, hey, I want to do this, hey, I want to get richer, hey, I want to get healthier, hey, I want to think clearer, all that kind of stuff, they're initially going to seem like they're cheering you on. But then all of a sudden, you'll be getting together with them once, and they will have brought dessert, and they'll be like, oh, it's okay, you can just eat dessert. And there will be some sabotage that happens. Sabotage that will either be direct, like overt, or sabotage that'll just be if they talk about, just being in their sphere, being in their energy is just going to make it so that you keep sucking the lemon. So, the same thing so we've covered money, we've covered weight, we've covered relationships. All these different factors in your life. I mean, one of the greatest gifts I've given myself as I've aged, and you'll find a lot of people are on journeys of self-discovery, and make no mistake, I do not espouse any level of perfection. These are things I have wrestled with my whole life. But one of the greatest gifts I ever gave myself was surrounding myself with people who, had healthier mindsets. And the thing about healthier mindsets, you can be in a situation where when you decide you want those healthier mindsets, you can encourage the people that are in your life to come with you on that trip. It's kind of like, when the nation of Israel left Egypt, it doesn't say it in the book, but I'm sure there's plenty who stayed behind, just by human nature. I'm sure there were plenty who were like, oh man, we got to go do this hard stuff so we can get the really good stuff in the promised land. Nah, we're going to stay here and be slaves. They chose to be slaves because they'd rather suck the lemon. So the Bible is clear, and whether you're looking at the Bible or you're looking at pretty much every faith, even spiritualism, espouses the idea behind the phrase, what you sow, so shall ye reap. And what does that mean? Whatever seeds you plant, those are the seeds that are going to grow. So, a lot of men these days, especially in North America, are fanatical about their lawns. If you drive through neighborhoods that are a little more well-heeled, you can see all these middle-aged to senior men fanatically manicuring their lawns like they're some kind of, lawn savant. I'll let you a little secret. My father is a lawn savant, and I always joke with him. I say, because he's 83 and he's not going to live forever, and I always joke with him and I say, I know exactly what we're going to put on your headstone. Here lies Carl. Man, he had a great lawn. Now, of course, he chuckles a little bit when we say that, because I think inside he knows he probably spends a little too much time on his lawn. But too much time as compared to what? I mean, it's his hobby, so that's fine. But going back to the overall care of those guys who are manicuring their lawn with a pair of scissors, it is, they're very careful if they see any weeds. Got to get it up quick because those weeds are going to spread. You see one dandelion, I got to get that dandelion out of there, because it's going to spread, and all of a sudden I'll have a lawn full of dandelions. And it's not just personally, I like dandelions, nice little bit of yellow, but I'm not fanatically doing my lawn. Apparently, dandelions have a structure underneath them, like a leafy weed that's not as attractive against the full symmetry of your nice Kentucky bluegrass. But they know that if they don't get that weed out, it's going to infest their whole lawn. And so, really, just think about this for a minute, okay? Just think about this for a minute. If you're in a situation where you're not happy, okay? Every time you try to have a relationship, it goes to garbage. Your work is really unsatisfying. Maybe you've been fired or laid off. Maybe you're dissatisfied with your house. Maybe you're dissatisfied with your relationship with your children. Maybe you're dissatisfied with your relationship with your parents. You can stay right there and get that lemon and just keep sucking. Just keep sucking. Because it's going to taste like, the first suck and the 10th suck are still going to taste like a lemon. Or you can put down the lemon, and you can say, okay, I am going to look at my life as being a lawn, okay? Look at it as being a lawn. And my lawn right now is full of weeds. It is full of weeds. Because I've been pursuing things that are purely selfish, like I mentioned to you earlier with that trader, where he was very, very successful and he was focused on the work. And he became far less successful when he was focused on the money. So you look at your life and you say, my lawn, okay, has got all these weeds, not just dandelions. It's got those tall weeds, it's got thistles, it is not very much fun for me to walk across the lawn of my life. So you then, as I said, get that yellow pad out and look at who you're hanging out with. That's the easiest thing you can do. You can transform yourself, absolutely, for sure. But the easiest thing you can do is look at who you're hanging out with and what they're bringing to the table as far as what energy they are. Just even by you hanging out with them, what energy are you experiencing? What energy is building up your life? And then you can finally say to yourself, okay, I've identified these issues, because I'm not telling you have to cut these people out of your life, but one of the greatest things, my favorite book is called The Game of Life and How to Play It. I'll put a link in the description as well. It's a Christian-based book, though, on how that God wants you to have what you want, but there's going to be a process for you to get that. And it's not so much what you want, but more what you need. But oftentimes, if you have healthy thinking, what you want is what you need. It's just a matter of degrees. You know, if you have healthy thinking, you know, like for example, one might say, "Hey, I want to be rich with a Lambo and hot models in the swimming pool." Well, a person really doesn't want that. What a person is saying who wants to be rich with a Lambo and models in the swimming pool is that A, the rich has come because he doesn't want to work so hard without reward. B, the Lambo, so when he drives down the street, people notice him. And C, the hot models, he wants to feel validated by other people. So even though he's saying, you know, he wants those material things, the core of it is those things I just mentioned. So you do a stock of your lawn, and I said, you know what? Like just in my last video when I said there is a hell of a lot of value in just going quiet for a while. There's a hell of a lot of value in just choosing not to hang out with those people, you know, who either are, you know, they're overweight and they don't, and if you're on a weight journey, they don't want to do anything about it. You just kind of like recluse yourself a little bit. They're always bitching about money, so you kind of just pull back, you recluse yourself a little bit. They're always having turmoil in their relationships, so you recluse yourself, you pull back a little bit. You know, those who have generally bad luck, like nothing ever seems to go their way. Well, recluse yourself a little bit. And then once you have, so consider that being a version of, you're going around like, you know, those devices old men use, you see them all on a Sunday afternoon, they're pulling out each weed individually. Okay, so imagine you've gone around and you pulled each weed out individually, okay? And then you got all these holes in your lawn, and your lawn is kind of brown and not so healthy and stuff like that. Then you got to fertilize it. You got to go and you know, read some books about people who have overcome great adversity and how they did that. Call up someone, if you want to be rich, call up someone who's rich and appears to have an abundantly healthy life and say, hey, can we have a conversation? Call up someone who has a really stable relationship, has had for a long time, and you know they're happy. You not as you think they're happy, you know they're happy, meaning that, you know, they not only are they happy in their lives, but when they're together, they seem to be. You can always tell the couples that are really connected. There's a lot of friendly communication verbally, but also a lot of touching and a lot of just general high regard. Anytime you talk to someone and they roll their eyes a little bit about their spouse or partner, that's someone who's not happy with themselves, especially, and well, with their relationship, but with themselves especially, because they're sucking a lemon, right? So you can do all that. You can spend that time, and you know what? Those people may end up actually, you know, if you put yourself out there in that particular way, you can almost make a routine out of it. You know, like when I talked to you about, so that when you're going to fix your lawn, you're not going to fix it with one application of grass seed and fertilizer. You may have to go on a little bit of a regimen. Like you talk to a lawn guy, he'll tell you, oh yeah, I gotta fertilize with this weed and feed every 2 weeks or something, and I gotta spray this and I gotta do that. And now, mind you, here's the best part. Once you have gotten past all of that weeding and fertilizing, and the lawn starts to green up and look really good, the maintaining of that is very easy. You know, those old guys I mentioned, like my dad, yeah, sure, he likes to putt around his lawn, partially because it's huge. I think he loves driving his riding lawnmower. But yeah, one or two little weeds pop up and he's quick to run over and get them. So he doesn't spend too much time in his lawn anymore. But yeah, once you have gotten that to that place, you will be in a situation where you love the way your lawn looks and everything will be going your way, because you know, that lawn, when it's green and lush like that, in the morning, the birds are on the lawn, because that green lush grass, a lot of bugs go in there, a lot of there's more worms because the soil is healthier. Like there's just a body of goodness that comes with that lush lawn, and so it'll be very easy to maintain. And then when you consider, when you get that invariable phone call from one of those people who wants to bring you down, crabs in a bucket, look it up if you don't know what crabs in a bucket is. Like those people that you were hanging out with more than when you kind of reclused yourself, they'll be noticing how green your lawn is. They'll be noticing how, like, there's birds and there's it's easy to manage, and you could have a picnic on it, and it's just nice, and all the neighborhood dogs want to come around and sniff on it because it's a nice open space, all that kind of stuff. They're going to notice that, and they're going to be like, hey, how come your lawn is so green and lush and ours sucks? You should have some weeds or some lemons. Or, and that's, whether it's the weight, whether it's the money, whether it's the job satisfaction, whether it's the job, or whether it's the relationship. All those people who do not have that figured out, when they see that you all of a sudden are figuring it out, will go, how dare you? How dare you? We're busy sucking lemons. How come you're not sucking a lemon with us? Now, for those weak among you who, you can have some empathy. You can have empathy for those people, and you can encourage them. You can say, hey, I figured out what was wrong with my lawn, and I figured it out, and I made steps to change it, and I'm happy to help you do that. And those people will do one of two things. They will either go, really? Yes, let's do that. But you'll have to be careful, because sometimes people will say that, but it's a covert tactic, because they say that so that they can then insidiously pull you down once you agree to get back in association with them. But there's nothing wrong with giving people the benefit of the doubt. And the beauty of you having a nice green lawn is that it's strong enough to resist when a few dandelions pop up initially. If you don't monitor it, it won't be for long, but initially. So you'll be able to see that in those people, and you'll be able to act accordingly. And yes, if it means cutting them out, that's what you got to do. Just the way it is. Unless you want to keep sucking the lemon. I meet a lot of, I go to my way sometimes to talk with older people, or even just interact with older people. Sometimes people that are in a more unhealthy state. Sometimes people that are quite delightful. And I'm very much on board with the whole, reaping what you sow. And again, it's, all these religions in the world, it's fine if you're an atheist and stuff, that's fine. But one thing about religions is that they are rooted in universal wisdom. And I think it's foolish. I think it's foolish when you're thinking about the world and all the things in it. I think it's foolish to say to yourself, this universal wisdom can't be true, when it's been tested over and over again through generations, and books have been written on it. All that kind of stuff doesn't happen. I mean, there's a favorite, there's a Robert De Niro quote from one of his, I think it was Casino. He's like, when there's doubt, there is no doubt. And that's true. If you think your partner's cheating on you, they are. They may not physically be cheating, but they're at least emotionally cheating with someone, because you'll have noticed something. Or if you feel like you're, if you have money that keeps going missing and there's only a couple of people in your house, you can you have a suspicion someone's stealing from you. So they are. You may not know exactly who, but they are. That's more or less what I'm saying about that. So yeah, like I said, my isthmus here again to doing this video was that program I watched this morning, which really laid it out. It was very compelling, and again, follow the link at the bottom if you want to go check it out. And but at the end of the day, you really it is such an easy choice, because I'm going to tell you right now, once you got that green lawn, oh man, you get people showing up in your life who are healthy and intelligent and fun to be around and enjoyable. And it may not happen right away. It may take, because there are not, I'm like the old 80-20 rule. If you take 100 people, 80% of them are miserable. That is the rule. And when I say miserable, they're just not living their best life. Sometimes people are miserable and they think they're happy. It's kind of like that analogy I told you the other day about, when you see a homeless guy, you can give him all the good information about how not to be homeless and how to take control of his life, but he is so blinded by his state and by his negative thinking. All he cares about is how much money I'm going to put in his hat. And he may not say it out loud, but it's like you've often heard the story where people will bring a guy some food and he'll be like, oh, I don't want your food, I just want money. And realizing that, he has to spend money on food anyway, but I'm sure you've heard the stories. So look at your lawn, look at the people that are standing around on your lawn or giving you advice on growing your lawn, and make a choice. Because, let's pretend you're a parent, okay? A lot of people say to me they value themselves on how they're a great parent. Well, part of being a great parent is being an excellent example for your kids. Not do as I say, but do what I am. Because kids will emulate you. They will emulate how you look at the world. They will emulate how you deal with people. And that is directly related. I'm going to tell you right now, all the parents who've ever watched their kid get sentenced by a judge for any crime, petty to something more serious, all of them in that moment were like, holy shit, if only 5, 10, 15 years ago I had made a few different choices, we wouldn't be experiencing this today. So if for no other reason, do it for your kids. Because if you have been unsatisfied with your life up to this point, there's another phrase in the Bible that says, the sins of the father fall onto the second and third generation. That's been a real motivator for me, because in my family there is some dysfunction that I have done my level best to weed out. I say the line stops here. And by doing a style of parenting which is more consultative as opposed to conditional and directive. But that's not, maybe I'll do a video on that sometime. But the point is that if you're, do it for yourself, sure, that's fine. But the children are the future, man. And if you mothers out there, you fathers, mothers especially though, because mothers do want the best for kids. Sometimes to their detriment. Sometimes mothers can be over enabling. Not insisting the kids leave or at least grow up. More sheltering, more enabling behavior. That I've covered that in other videos about how guys haven't left their parents' basement. That's kind of the extreme end of this. But the point is that if your personal lawn, like this lawn that's in here, is lush, clean, vibrant, not weedy, healthy, you'll be attracting all these wonderful things to you. You'll have a brand new set of people. You will bring people into your life that makes sense. You'll either bring new people in, or the people that left your life who, because of this dysfunction, could not stay. They'll either come back or new people will come, and you will experience abundance, just like that homeless guy. If he, instead of him just taking the dollar bills now and again, if he sometimes listens to that advice or tries a little harder, he's going to be in a situation where not only, it's the old adage, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish, he eats for the rest of his life. Well, what you're doing right now is teaching yourself how to, you're learning a new way to fish. You've been fishing your whole life. You're learning a new way to fish, and you're making the decision to stop sucking the lemon. Thanks, folks.